funky fantasy. Do. The bowl. Do. Special guest edition. It's the War of Nerds. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the War of Nerds podcast. We are your bearded hosts. Short one tonight. Ryan is gone with personal and family stuff, but you've got me, the funky fantasy man, Nathan Helm.
And you've got Alfred Muller, also known as the Bull.
And as I said in the intro, we have a special guest tonight, Mr. Zachary Jeffries. Please go ahead and take the floor, sir, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your books and all the good stuff.
Hey, I'm super happy to be here. I am Zachary Jeffries. I write YA fantasy novels. I've got 3 novels out currently, 1 on the way. I've got teenagers with mythological powers faced with giant apocalyptic odds, and all they want to do is fall in love and date, man. That's all they want to do.
That's awesome.
Right?
No kidding. And do you have any of your books near you that you can hold up to the screen?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 2 books right now in my Angels of New York State series. I've got Angel of Fate. It is about a young Grim Reaper and a young woman who doesn't realize she is a Greek fate. They will save the balance of life and death if they could stop arguing for 5 minutes. And then I have Witches of Fate. I have 2 different witches who are stuck in a supernatural storm. Different sides of a generational war between gods and mortals is recruiting in their hometown, and all they want to do is go on a first date. And then I also have The Unseen Curse. It is a magical murder mystery in a sleepy New England town.
Nice.
Nice.
Those sound awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Would you kind of say that they fall into the to the low fantasy setting at any points in time, like Harry Potter, or any urban traits to it?
Yeah, I would say almost urban fantasy. Urban fantasy, a lot of people kind of immediately think that it's a little bit of that detective noir, which Unseen Curse has. So I would say Unseen Curse is probably a little bit of urban fantasy, and it's really kitchen sink. It's every folklore and fairy tale and myth is true in some way, and it's just hidden from us normies, us normal humans. And then Angels of New York State is definitely a paranormal romance, but no werewolves, no vampires, only witches and reapers and fates and oracles and angels and all that fun stuff.
Very cool.
Alfred, I think you found a new friend.
Yeah, absolutely. We write very similar, which is pretty cool.
Oh, sweet, man. Yeah, we should hook up and find some readers to cross-pollinate.
Absolutely. My stuff definitely deals angels, demons in my main series, and then I've got side series that deal with like necromancers and grim reapers and the struggle they fight between themselves. So that's really cool. I'll definitely have to check your stuff out. But I do have a question with those 3, and I know you said you had a 4th one on the way out. What is a book that you love for readers to gravitate to more if they haven't already, or just what's a book that you'd like readers to pick up more and like focus on that?
Yeah, like if you're just starting off, I would say probably Angel of Fate. It's probably the most accessible. There's a lot of following the main character as they discover the worlds of magic and everything that is hidden to them. It's also probably a little more lighthearted than the rest. I tend to write really snarky main characters, and I love banter. I love dialogue and stuff like that. It's just that the rest of the books kind of get pretty heavy right off the bat, and there's a little more characters with a little bit more of an edge and a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder. So I would say Angel of Fate is probably the most accessible if you're looking for something to jump into.
Awesome.
Fantastic. And I'll bounce right off of that. He was asking, which one you want readers to know more about. What I like to know is, which one do you want readers to know, the one that you're the most proud about? So which one out of the books you've written you're the most proud of, for it can be a variety of reasons.
Man, that's tough. In a way, I would say The Unseen Curse is the most autobiographical. It's the most that I have put myself into a book, and that was fun. I grew up in the deep South, and we were the only Jewish family in our town and in most of my schooling growing up. And I literally lifted conversations that I had, because a lot of these folks, their concept of what a Jewish person was probably akin to what we would think a Martian was. Just like they asked what kind of foods could I eat, what kind of clothes I wear, what kind of cars I can drive. Were my Sour Patch Kids as sour as theirs? There was such a big gap, and I really enjoyed putting that and being a part of this main character, Juniper Schmidt. Her story is dealing with that. And whereas she investigates this murder and kind of inserts herself into a murder investigation, and as she comes to find out that she is not unpopular just because she is one of the only Jewish families in town, but there is actually a conspiracy of magic that is keeping secrets from her family specifically, and that is directly tied to the murder that she is looking into.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
Did you take any inspiration from Harry Potter at all with kind of the Cursed series?
Not specifically. I was never that much of a Harry Potter guy. You know what I took the most inspiration from? And this is wild, talking about like weird places where ideas can come from. There was a movie in the mid-90s starring Sylvester Stallone, and Robert De Niro was in it, and Michael Rappaport. It was a veritable who's who. Harvey Keitel, called Copland. And the story of Copland is all these cops from New York City basically found a town in New Jersey, and they kind of run it. They're kind of their own like organized crime in the town. They control the town, and they use it as a home base where they're above the law. And it's a pretty good movie. I really liked it. I've seen it a couple of times, and I just remember watching it once, and right when I finished, I said, that's pretty cool, but what if it was about wizards? And that's where the whole idea came from, where it's a whole town founded by wizards, controlled by wizards, but all of that is behind a facade. All of that is a secret conspiracy as to why they have founded that town, and why they are hiring the people that they are, like Juniper Schmidt's family, to come in as rubes, as unknowing people playing into a larger plan.
Cool.
That is
How
cool.
long have you been writing?
I mean, I've been writing something my whole life. I wrote a lot of short stories and a lot of bad poetry in high school. I wrote just any idea I had. I would try different mediums. I've written a couple of TV pilots, a couple of screenplays. I became a theater kid in college, and that really, really served me in the long run, because with playwriting and just studying theater, the structure is just so obvious. Like, you literally have act one, scene one, and you learn structure in that way, especially if you can do something like study Shakespeare, that is almost always a 5-act structure, and then French scenes. Every single time a new character is introduced, it's a new scene. And so by doing that over the years, I really had a solid base for structure. Wrote some screenplays, wrote a lot of sketches, and then in 2013, I had failed at writing novels several times. And then in 2013, I started doing NaNoWriMo and failed several times at that. And then in 2016, I finished my first. And then I just got the bug. Once I figured out that I could do it, then it became a much less daunting task. And I realized that, the hard part wasn't writing it, it was revising it.
100%.
And now I'm at a little over 2 books a year I can finish.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
You say you failed at writing a novel. Did you just give up on it, or did you like try and get it published and then it didn't get published, or what do you mean by when you?
Oh no, I would peter out between 20 and 30,000 words. That was pretty regular for me. I had one story that I tried to write probably 4 different times in my lifetime. I had one story that was this epic Viking saga with low fantasy. And I did that one year for Nano. I think it was Camp Nano. And I succeeded. I wrote the whole story, but it was 25,000 words. So yeah, I just had a lot of attempts where I didn't hit the 50,000 mark, or the story just kind of petered out and I realized it wasn't going anywhere. And then that's when I really started to focus on reading within the genre and then applying what I knew about play structure to novel structure and kind of seeing how you can overlay and you can the body fills out differently, but the bones are the same.
Yeah. Any chance we'll
Absolutely.
see any of those attempted novels in the future, or are they kind of going to stay in the waste bin for now?
I don't know. Well, one, the novel that I learned to revise on the job doing that, I worked on that for about a year and a half, just revising it, and I just turned that one into mush, and that one's done. That one's absolutely gone. But like I have that Viking saga. I really liked the voice. It's a very different voice that I had written. It's very austere and really short, very like Cormac McCarthy, Ernest Hemingway, like tons of really simple sentences that obviously lends itself to a shorter book. And that's something that in my head, I could see fitting into something bigger. But I would really have to flesh out and see where I wanted to go with that. But a couple of them I eventually did rewrite and turn into something else. The Unseen Curse was one of them. I tried writing The Unseen Curse from the perspective of her father, who is the deputy mayor and is a patsy in this larger game. And it just didn't click. It wasn't super interesting. He was coming across as dumb by being so involved in this conspiracy and not seeing it for what it was. And that's fine. Not necessarily him being dumb, but him being aloof or him being distracted. And then once I figured out that he has a daughter and I could write from her perspective and I was comfortable writing YA, that's when it really came together. That's when, because when you're the father of a 15-year-old kid, so you're going to be seen as dumb and aloof no matter what. So I got to lean into that and play into that. And he's just this very dedicated single father. But it works not from his perspective, because this perspective is from the person that is the smartest one in the room, who is his daughter, who is very adept at solving mysteries.
Awesome. And now we've gone around your proudest moments and a bit about that. So let's kind of toss gears for one question that I really like, which is, what is the most embarrassing moment of your writing career?
Oh, wow. So many. I found out, so this is Zachary Jeffries is my second, actually my third pen name, but I have a lot of books out that are middle grade sci-fi. as Z Jeffries. And I found out probably about a year later that book 3 in one of my series that I had uploaded and I had been selling books was an older draft, that it was not the final draft, and had not just like a couple of typos, but like a character's name changed. And there was a speech that really, for me, like really kind of filled out the character arc that was an old version of the speech. And so, like, in my opinion, the character arc didn't even make sense. And so, like, I have a box of those bad boys downstairs. And if I ever get to the point that I am learning, I'm going to teach myself like how to spray edges. I will happily ruin that box of book 3s, teaching myself how to spray edges.
Oh man.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and the finished version was done. It wasn't like I had given up and like had a deadline to meet, or it wasn't even like I didn't have the time or the resources, or I had paid an editor, I had paid a proofreader. That just wasn't the draft that went to Papa Bezos and Ingram Spark.
Oh man.
You actually just sparked a question for me. I don't think we've asked anybody this yet, so this might be more of a season 2 question that we make a regular. But when it comes to editing, what's your opinion on it? Like, do you like getting an editor, or do you feel like with the resources that we have out there when it comes to grammar, sentence structure, and all of what makes the sentences flow to make the book more readable, do you feel like you enjoy doing that stuff yourself and just getting second opinions through beta reads and alpha reads?
Great question, man. I have to say, honestly, I don't know any other way of doing it outside the way that I do it. I am lucky enough that I cultivated a community very early on in the sphere of like book Twitter, back when that was a thing, back in 2013. And there was a community of us, and we kind of worked together through Nano, and we hired each other for developmental edits and copy line edits and even covers and blurbs and stuff like that. And so I am extremely fortunate that I have an amazing editor whom I have worked with since 2017 is the first time I hired them, and I've been working with them ever since. And it's great because they know my writing style, and they know what my training wheels are, and what my overused words are and what my blind spots are, and they are very good at helping me write to my strengths. I will say I used to hire a proofreader, and I am debating that moving forward. I have Pro Writing Aid, I have Free Grammarly, and then I have built up a very solid group of beta readers, plus my copy line editor is extremely detail oriented. And so I have a free prequel novella off my website, jeffriesbooks.com, and that's to start off the Angels of New York State series, Angel of Brimstone. And that's the first work that I have done that I did not employ a proofreader. And so far, so good. And I'm wondering if that's going to be my business model moving forward.
It's hard, right, for us as indie authors trying to make a determination on what's going to be the best path for us financially, and finding somebody that understands, like you said, your editor understands your style and your stylistic choices. And I think that's the hardest part for finding an editor, that not that you're like, well, I don't want to work with this person because they're telling me I'm doing these things wrong, but instead more like, I'm not finding an editor that's going to be helping me improve my weaknesses and strengthen what I'm already good at. You know what I mean? So
100%, 100%. And I've gotten the thing back from the proofreader where even the things that I'm writing that are the narrator voice is
Yeah.
not in perfect English and doesn't have perfect grammar, but it's obviously a choice of voice, and that is really annoying to have to sift through all of those notes to find the actual helpful notes sometimes.
Correct. Yeah. I think just all of us on our journeys have to figure out what's going to work best. Sometimes it takes a few years before you find an editor that's going to be right your writing, and that's just the way it is. So sometimes just getting beta readers and a community of people who read it and they're just like, hey, look at these things, and so that's nice. Thank you. It's nice to get people's perspectives on how their experience has been with that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of, like, sometimes the book that you first debut with, that you first put out, sometimes that changes, and that's the best part about being an indie. And I have the first version of the first book that I put out. There have been a lot of changes. I changed the cover. I definitely changed the blurb, and I went through, and there were a couple of typos that I found later on. There are a couple of character moments that I didn't handle as well as I would have liked to, especially considering what the character trajectory arc was over the next several books. And I went back and fixed it because I have that control, and that's one of the best things about being an indie. So we might as well use it to our advantage.
100%. You want to ask him the question that we usually ask people?
Yeah, I'll ask it this time. So with the varying paths we can take as authors, why did you choose indie over TradPub?
Oh, I couldn't get my foot in the door, brother. I queried 2 books for I did probably like 4 months, and then took a couple of months off and did another 2 or 3 months for each of those. And I collected over 100 rejections from there. And I completely understood, like, I am just now coming around to the concept of writing to market or writing to readership. I prefer to think of it as writing to readership because I finally do have a little bit of a readership, and they're fantastic about letting me know what they like and what they want more of, and I hopefully get to fulfill that and give them the stories that they're looking for. But before I had that, I was just kind of writing for me and writing where the story took me, and that meant that my first series, the Hide and Seek Chronicles, doesn't fit in a perfect niche. Especially not one that traditional publishing likes to be able to file different titles away. So that one was upper middle grade that aged up into lower YA and then YA with each book. As the books went on, the kids got older. That's not super easy to market to. I also, under the name Z Jeffries, I'm writing sci-fi books that's middle grade to lower YA for boys. And that is a tiny market because, unfortunately, that's an age in which generally speaking, boys tend to fall off of reading. That's when sports become more exciting. That's when collecting becomes a bigger thing. Video game play becomes a bigger thing. And reading often becomes a chore, a part of their workload at school, and is less of a fun recreational thing. And so I wrote those to, compete with Marvel movies, to compete with video games and such like that. And I'm very proud of all of that work, but it was not going to work with an agent. There was no one that was going to take that kind of chance on me.
Yeah, and we had mentioned that in either a side thing or another podcast episode, where it just seems like that's still, and it's I think of it as an unfortunate thing because reading is such an amazing escape. It's an amazing adventure, and the fact that young men still tend to shy away from it after a given point. Which, don't get me wrong, sports are amazing. I played sports growing up, and I loved every second of that. But if I had read a little bit more, I think I would have enjoyed that just as much if I had just given it the time of day. But I do hope that maybe there's young man or two listening to this podcast tonight and they'll pick up your book and give it a shot, because it sounds like you had a very good idea where you wanted to compete with those kinds of things and you wanted to make it entertaining enough for a young kid picking it up to enjoy it. So I'm glad that someone's trying to combat the fall off of reading.
Yeah, here's hoping. And that's some of the best reader feedback I get are kids writing book reports. I've gotten a couple of stories about this. I had one kid who wrote, this is an amazing story. There's this young man who wrote a book report on Chase the Boy Who Hid, which is book 1 of the Hide and Seek Chronicles. He loved it and had this fantastic report. And the teacher looked it up and saw that I was self-published and gave the young man a bad grade or told him to rewrite it with a different book, because in her perspective, she did not understand. She thought that it meant that it was not a real book. So this kid, bless him, he goes home, he prints out my reviews, he prints out my website. He puts together a presentation in defense of me as a writer. And I don't know this kid from Adam. I do not have a personal connection to this kid. And he made his piece and he argued with the teacher and he presented his materials. And honestly, kudos to her. She listened, she was open, and the kid walked out with an A.
That's
fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Speaking of favorites, what is have you ever had an experience with a reader, and it can be any reader? It was a moment that was so just heartfelt for you, of you impacted somebody's life with one of your books, type of experience where just you're really proud of, your proudest moment of your writing career, where something like that was unique and important to you happened?
Yeah. So with my Angels of New York State series, I think one of the things that I strive to do that is something that we can do as indies that really isn't happening in traditional publishing is this is written for teenagers. And these are not like adults with adult thinking that just happen to be that age. There's not spice in this. I understand spice is great if that's what you're into, but for YA, I was not comfortable writing that. And so I'm trying to write these realistic situations. Some of these kids have jobs. Some of these kids have cars. Some of these kids don't have cars. And that's an obstacle in the greater plot and stuff. And then again, these are romances. So their friends are asking, like, are you guys hooking up? Are you guys not? And I have someone let me know that they were a mom and she was buddy reading with her daughter. And by reading this story together, that kind of opened up some conversations that were difficult to start up, that the mom didn't know that she would be starting them up on her own volition if she didn't have a segue, if they didn't have a context that they were talking about. And a lot of them were about like sexual activity and peer pressure and stuff going on at school and stuff like that. And the idea that that a book can give that opportunity and then help another relationship between a mother and a daughter that's out there, and allow them to deepen their connection and help each other, because being a teen sucks. Like, it's so tough. There's so much pressure in so many different ways. And if one of my stories could allow a mom to connect with her daughter and help it suck a little less, and allow them to communicate in a way that they wouldn't be as quick to communicate, then that's just absolutely amazing. And I was incredibly humbled to hear that.
Without a doubt.
That's awesome. I love hearing stories like that.
Me too.
Right? They're the best.
They really are.
So with you had mentioned NaNoWriMo earlier, and we've had a couple of people, myself included, who have done it, either succeeded or failed, but a lot of the times they feel like burnt out afterwards.
Mhm.
Uh, did you feel that? And then did it cause any writer's block, or have you ever experienced writer's block?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that there is a single correct way of writing, but I do believe that something that is structured and as simple as the idea of attempting to write 50,000 words in 30 days, I think that really helps you learn what is right for you, helps you learn what your process is. I think a lot of us learn that we are not everyday writers, that we are not the kind of writers that are going to write whatever it is, 1,300 words a day. Yeah, so I learned my limits in that. Uh, my solution to writer's block, because usually I know what needs to happen in the story. Whether or not I know what's going to happen in the next scene or not is another story, but I know generally what direction we're going in the external conflict and in the character arc. But I will be too focused on that. And I will be like, oh, okay, well, how do I get this mental turn for him to start trusting her, or her to start trusting him, or whatever it is, or how do I get them, from celebrating the baseball game to fighting outside of the pizza place, and I get too bogged down in the nuts and bolts, and my my solution is to focus on something that doesn't matter in the scene that I know I need. So is it a detail? Is it physically he kind of spaces out and looks at a rip that's in his jeans, and he remembers the moment that those jeans ripped, and he remembered that he was yelled at by his family because he had just gotten the jeans and his family can't afford jeans, and then all of a sudden it's this character moment, and it gives a lot of background, and it's a very organic way for it to happen. Or is it focusing on something completely internal, where it's a way of talking about what's happening in the scene, while the character in their mind is really focused on the secret or the lie that they are keeping from everybody. So every single thing that they say and do is through the lens of that secret or that lie. So I try to find something that I have not been focusing on. So not focusing on the big arc and not focusing on the external conflict, and really just zoom in on whatever this other aspect is, and let myself play with that, and just write through that. And before I know it, they're outside the pizza place. They have admitted that they trust each other. Whatever that happens, because that's already in me subliminally. My subconscious is already working on that. And so if I just put my attention elsewhere and just make the words start moving, then I will get those messages in there.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Now, Alfred and I are both big convention connoisseurs. We love going to all those events and stuff when we get the opportunity. Alfred's got one coming up that's going to be really fun down in Huntsville, Alabama. So for you, do you enjoy going to conventions? And two, if so, do you have any that you're going to this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely dig it. Last year I went a little overboard, and I do all kinds of small library events, bigger Comic Cons that I can get myself into. Last year, I just kind of said yes to everything. I even went to a couple of brewery art showcases and just anything that I could go to. And I wound up doing over 30 in-person events in 1 year. And that was too many. That was not great. And I definitely got burned out then. So I am picking and choosing. I really like the small library events, especially just for the kind of books that I write, since I do have the middle grade sci-fi books and my YA books are teen centric. Those are really good for that market. I don't like going to the same ones year after year. I kind of like to rotate and take a year off and do that. But I really like the small ones. I will not drive more than 2 hours. I am in the Chicagoland area, so I'm lucky enough that I can get to, I can be in 4 different states without driving 2 hours, and that has opened up. And then on top of that, I do travel a bit just because I have family on different sides of the country, and so I can, make a family visit into a business visit as well. So yeah, I do tons. And in the end of September, I'm going to be doing Sinful Signings, which I'm extremely excited about. I'll be doing that for the first time. That one is romance, and I will be there with my plucky paranormal romance without spice books and doing what we can, moving some books. Let's see. I'm not positive when you guys are airing. In the end of April, I'm going to be doing the Conyers Book Festival, April 20th in Conyers, Georgia. April 28th, I'm going to be doing the Kenosha Book Fair in Kenosha, Wisconsin at Moonfall Studios. May the 4th, I'm going to be doing May the 4th Be With You celebration at the Niles Public Library in Niles, Illinois. And then May 11th, I'm going to be doing the Oak Lawn Public Library Fan Fest in Oak Lawn, Illinois. So, I promised myself to do less than I did last year. And here I am doing 4 book events in 4 weeks across 3 states.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You and our other host need to talk too. You'll have to follow both Alfred and Stratus Eris on TikTok, but Ryan lives in Peoria, and so
nice.
maybe if you know of some conventions or like little small events like that he might be able to get to within an hour's drive. I think that'd be really good for him because I know he doesn't have the ability to like travel far and wide because he's got kids and his wife. So
I'd love to touch base with him on that. Peoria is a great town for books. There are so many little different author and book events and tons of little Comic-Cons. But I'll talk to him. I pride myself in networking at these events and bringing people on and letting people know about that. There's a little spreadsheet that we share that anyone can add to, and I will definitely get him added to that. I like to think of I'm running for mayor of Chicagoland authors. That's what I'm doing. So I'll definitely connect and get him that list.
That's
Absolutely. Awesome. I'm kind of doing the same thing in the southern United States area. I've got a Facebook page that I kind of put together trying to give conferences more spotlight. This because, like you said, and I love the fact that you like going to the smaller ones because that's one of my favorite things too. I normally will stick to. Haven't done many like libraries and conventions like that, but like expos, pop culture events, those kinds of smaller literary style. Just because there's readers that show up to every single one of them. They're not as expensive as like New York Comic Con or San Diego Comic Con. They're more personable, and you still get large crowds. So yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, Worldcon, right when I first started doing events, and I had literally done one library event, and it was to this day the most successful event that I had ever done, which unfortunately gave me an unrealistic set of expectations on how I was going to be moving forward. And so I had done one at a library and sold something like 35 books, and it was in like 4 hours. So I was like, well, I guess that's what I do now. I guess I sell every 4 hours I'm at an event. I need to have 35 books ready to go. And then WorldCon came around, and WorldCon is the World Sci-Fi Fantasy Convention, and it's everywhere in the world. It's, Dublin, and I believe it's in China this year, and it just happened to be in Chicago that year. And I signed up and I got myself a table, and I was super ready. And then I go and set up my table, and like they're literally like huge bookstores with triple booths, right across from me and right next to me, and they're selling Ray Bradbury, and I'm selling my hide and seek chronicles. And so that was a bit of a humbling experience and a wake up call. And I'm with you. I really started to fall in love with the smaller ones, and I do love going back. I did this one small one where a gentleman recognized me, and I had totally I probably profiled him a bit. He had a nerdy shirt. He was going to the gaming room, which was just within view, and he sat down and he was doing gaming with somebody. And I was just trying to make eye contact. I'm like, I think this guy would dig my books if I could talk to him about it. And he just sat there and gamed the whole time. And I couldn't make eye contact. He got up and got drinks or food or anything. I didn't make eye contact. Couldn't get him over. And then eventually, at the very end, I'm talking to some of the other authors, and we're just chit-chatting. And I see he wanders over to my table. And then I go there, and he's talking with all the guys that he was gaming with. And then as I come over and say, "How can I help you guys? Hey, what's up?" They form a line, and he's like, "Oh, I bought one of your books. And these guys are in the book club with me. And now we're all going to read Pro Wrestling Saves Earth, your next title. And we're going to do it for our book club." And one by one, each guy came up and ordered. And a couple of them were on their phone talking to friends and relatives. And they were like, "Oh, let me get this for my brother. Let me get this for my girlfriend. Let me get this for my sister." And that they made the day for me, just doing that. So yeah, I love the tiny events.
That's amazing.
That's sick. Oh man.
Absolutely. So
I'm just yeah. Anyways.
yeah, I know,
Sorry.
right?
It's the best.
Daydreaming a little bit there. I was just like,
Yeah.
It's the best. I know of two book clubs. That's one of them. And then I saw someone recommend one of my books in the wild on a Facebook readers group, and I was really taken aback. And that person messaged me and was like, "When is the sequel?" or asking something about the sequel, because her book club was reading the first one. And I was like, "That's absolutely amazing. Do you want to give me your address, and I'll send everyone in your book club some signed book plates and some stickers and some swag." And I did that, and then now she's one of my my ARC readers, and from now on, and I am incredibly lucky and very indebted to have just some amazing readers. I have a great newsletter. Everyone's very interactive. They have named themselves the Zed Heads. The Zed Heads are a great community, super supportive. I absolutely love them. Again, I am very, very blessed to have cultivated this little community. And then I have my extra subset of them who do my early reading, whether it's beta reading or ARC reading, and they call themselves the Zeta Readers. And yeah, my Zed Heads and Zeta Readers, shout out to you guys. You guys are the best. And you guys keep me going. I really appreciate it.
That's amazing.
it is.
This has been one of like the most motivational and uplifting episodes we've had, which is awesome.
Yeah, get it.
So I do have a question. With all of this these amazing stories, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What is it that do you have a goal that you set, or is it just looking ahead? What's the next 5 years look like?
Yeah, I mean, I generally don't try to look that far in advance. I kind of focus on what I have and work in the present. This is the year of me completing a lot of stories. I am finishing the Angels of New York State trilogy. That book is almost halfway done. That should be out spring of 2025. So I'll finish that this year. The Hide and Seek Chronicles, book 5, finishes off the series. That is completed. I just need to revise and edit that. That will be out either later this year or next year. And I want to finish the Pro Wrestling Saves Earth duology with Pro Wrestling Saves the Galaxy. I would love to find a way of doing something ongoing, whether it is something that is, just a large scale story that takes 5, 7, 9 books. I would like to sink my teeth into something like that. I would really like to find some co-authoring opportunities to work with some great other authors, and I feel like that would be a way of honing my craft and pushing me outside of my comfort zone and expanding, maybe some shared universes kind of thing. But more than anything, I just really want to probably deepen the connections I have with the Zed heads, really strengthen that community, make sure that I'm giving them what they want as far as content and books. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from me, but if I can know what they love, then, get them the books that they want and be able to share with my author friends the things that will interest them. So yeah, I would just say like deepening connections, cultivating community, and then just expanding and pushing myself and my writing into some larger things.
That's cool.
That's awesome. And it's
and millions of dollars from Netflix.
I love that.
Like piles of money, just like a backhoe full of money from Netflix.
sounds good to me.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because this has been kind of an untraditional Bass Ackwards episode, because usually there's a few questions we ask at the beginning that we're just getting to towards the end. So usually this is one I ask at the beginning, and it's, what is your process like for creating your world, your characters, and your systems, everything like that? Are you a pantser? Are you a plotter? And just, what's your little your routine that you do?
Yeah, so I really think like all of this comes back to my my background in theater and understanding of structure. It allows me to be a pantser, but I'm probably not as loose and wild and maverick as some pantsers are out there. Like I do understand, every single one of my books is in some way, shape, or form 5 acts, a 5-act structure with a beginning, middle, and end. So that gives me 15 beats right there, and I know that I'm hitting those 15 beats. I generally start with a moment, just a character moment that coincides with the external plot, and just something that kind of like sticks out. And from there, I really have to find the characters, and I really have to like writing them. I don't have to like them. In fact, I am finding out that I love writing unlikable characters, characters that are a little bit prickly, a little bit hard to pet, if you will, but are compelling, and they are motivated and they make sense, and just if they intrigue me, then I know that they will intrigue a reader. So I go from the moment to that, and then I will start writing. I usually will not figure out the character arc, which really, really means a lot to me, until I'm a third of the way done, halfway done, or completely finished with the first draft. And then I will go back and be like, oh, okay. So it's a journey from not trusting anyone to, putting their lives in someone else's hands, or whatever that arc is. And once I understand what the arc is, then the revision will be, how do I set them up in the beginning of this to be the kind of person that doesn't seem that they will ever be able to do the thing that they have to do to finish the story. And then from there, it really is tightening and squeezing that concept. And it's not necessarily like, defeat the heavyweight champion of the world or climb the highest mountain. It's just, what is something personal that just seems impossible for that character to do at the beginning, so that when they finally do it at the end, it's gonna make you catch your breath. It's gonna make you say, "Oh my God!" It's gonna make you throw the book across the room. That's what I'm shooting for.
Awesome.
It is awesome.
I liken editing to pulling on strings until the image comes together. So I like that. Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite parts of the writing process is the editing, because that's when I actually can see the story coming together. Like you said, it's kind of just jumbled words in the beginning in that first draft, and I have an idea, but then in the editing you flesh it out and you make it more of what you're going to put out there.
Totally.
Outside of writing, what are some of your hobbies? What do you like to do? If you want to tell us about your day job, or just what do you do when you're not the author?
Yeah. So I generally work a soul-sucking job nights and weekends. I do that to have a flip schedule from my wife, so I am chasing around my kiddo during the day when she is not at school. I love gardening. I love learning home improvement as I go. I'm still a voracious reader. I'm very lucky that hasn't ruined itself for me, because one thing that I don't think a lot of people are prepared for is, once you start writing, you really can kind of see past the words and kind of see authorial intent, and you can kind of see structural bones things. And there are several movies like that writing has ruined for me, that like the second I start it, in the first 10 minutes I can be like, oh well, so they have to do this at the end, and that's how that works. But reading has definitely not gotten there. I love cooking. I used to work in kitchens. And so that's something that I miss. I don't miss like the pressure. Like I don't want to go back to the Bear TV show or anything like that. But I do love cooking off of recipes and making food for my loved ones. Yeah, so that's what I spend my time doing.
Awesome. And you're not kidding.
Yes.
It's like probably similar to your stories, but like any young adult urban fantasy style, Percy Jackson comes to mind, with the mist that obscures regular people from being able to see uh, the supernatural. So that when you're a writer and you start to read, it's like the veil is pulled off of your eyes, and you can then see everything that's happening. You're like, man, if I want to enjoy this story, I've got to get over this and be able to enjoy it.
Yep.
100%. Well, we're about at the end of our hour, and that brings me to the last question: is where would you like people to find you on the socials, if you have one that's preferable over another, and so that the listeners can come find you?
Yeah, everywhere that I am Jeffries Books. I am Jeffries Books on Facebook. I am Jeffries Books on Instagram. I am Jeffries Books on TikTok. I'm probably on TikTok more than the others. I co-host a talk show specifically about romantasy, the intersection of fantasy and romance. And that's Romantasy Reads, Monday nights, 9:30 to 11 p.m. Eastern. On TikTok, again, at Jeffries Books. And then my myriad of things going on is usually listed on my website, jeffriesbooks.com. You can go there, you can sign up, you can start reading for free for the Angels of New York State. We'll start you with a novella if you care to join the ranks of the Zed heads. I also have whatever my upcoming events are over there, a store if you want to buy some signed books. Or if you're interested in doing a of school visit or library visit, either virtually or if you're in the Chicagoland area. All that information is at jeffriesbooks.com.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, man,
This has been amazing, guys. This has been a lot of fun. And I'm saying if you're out there and you're checking this podcast out, first off, pull over the car. Don't do this while you're driving. But please make sure you guys are subscribing. Make sure you guys are leaving 5 stars. Your fellow nerds that you like to nerd out with over books and movies and film and stuff, make sure they know about this as well. These are some guys that are putting in a lot of their own time, trying to get you some good recommendations and giving you a peek behind the page. So yeah, support them if you can, and let's get them going. I've been seeing them; they've been doing a lot of work getting season 1 off the ground. So let's uplift these guys.
Thank you for that a lot.
Word, brother. Appreciate it. Well, to our funky listeners out there, your bearded hosts, face hole, your bearded hosts have concluded yet another episode. And again, whenever you're listening to this, this is a season 2 interview. So all the seasons are kind of base by base, but if you want to reach out to any of us, all of our socials and information will be below our boxes, including the guests. So come find us. But until next time, funky fantasy, the bowler, Zachary Jeffries, it's the War of Nerds. See y'all next time.